plus the fact that fighting it is going to cost a fortune. She looked at it. She came out with a decision. Hey, man, that's it. That should be it. People are saying, why would he settle if he was innocent? Hey, look, guys, he's not going to change anybody's mind no matter what he does. He can't change my mind. I think he probably was out of line with some of the girls, and I think some of the girls jumped on board because there was a chance of making money.
Oh, this is interesting to see. Your daily sports podcast, news, narratives, takes, gambling. We're back. Season 2 underway. Like, rate, review, subscribe. If you like the podcast, rate it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. That will help other people find it. That was America's moral compass when it comes to sports and the law. O.J. Simpson weighing in on Deshaun Watson. Obviously, great. That's what we want. So glad he's out of prison. That got about 400,000 views, him saying, what is the title of his tweet? You hired her. She made her decision. Respect it. Not talking about the massage therapists. He's talking about the federal judge. I'm going to explain the Deshaun Watson stuff soon, and we'll read a tweet thread by Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk. But we begin today down under in Australia, in the, I think it's a suburb of Sydney. I think it's called Lilyfield, where, wait, I'll do the thing. Look at that. Okay. There was an Australian soccer match or football. I think Australia likes American football more than international football, so they should call it soccer, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, there was a match in Lilyfield between, I don't know, somebody and somebody else. Let's see who it was. It was Sydney FC versus Central Coast Mariners. Then after the match, the footy game, the fans rioted in the parking lot. Let's take a watch here. Look at them. They're shooting flares and crap at each other. There is a riot. There is a riot. Look, there are flares. People are fighting over, and I'm going to be honest with you guys. If I see this shit at like a junior hockey game in Alberta, makes sense. If I see this shit at like an SEC football game, makes some sense. If I see this shit at like Barca Madrid, makes some sense. I see this shit at an Australia Cup game, no thank you. Plus, I thought the Aussies liked rugby better. I don't know. This is why. Look at this. This is like Harry Potter. Look, that guy picked up a flare and threw it. I had no idea Australia cared this much about soccer. Could have fooled me. Not very good at it. Look at it. It is a riot. We've all been cooped up from COVID. Australia, particularly, one of the 5 or 6 countries that's really been under lock and key. Also, their South Pacific friends in China and various parts of China have been essentially prisoners in their own homes. So people want to get out and about and have a Donnybrook, and they did with weapons. Love it. Gotta love 21st century technology when it comes to fighting. Let's move over to the state of Florida or wherever Trump golf course is. The LIV Tour and Donald Trump have teamed up for some stuff because obviously. But I can't fault the 45th president for teaming up with the Saudis. Joe Biden just gave him a fist bump. They have too much oil and too much money to ignore them. The British really screwed everybody in World War I, was it, when they drew the lines after winning? They were like, hey, Great Britain, you deal with Saudi Arabia. America will deal with these places. Russia, you deal with Turkey. France, you deal with Northern Africa. We figured it all out. And the Brits, our brothers in arms, were like, there's nothing over there. Just let them live their lives. That turned out to screw all of us forever. So here's what happened. Trump is obviously hosting a LIV golf event. Allegedly, there have been such little interest in attending in person. Now, this is what the important part of this is LIV does not play at like typical PGA locations because they're like, this is weird. We don't know if we like this, and it's tough. They also don't know how to stream it very well. What the LIV Tour have figured out is that they want to get talent, so they're going to pay the golfers a ton of money, and they're also going to make enormous purses. The purse for this one is, I think, $4 million, which is enormous for some stupid little 54-hole tournament. That's enormous. So that's what they figured out. However, they have not figured out how to make it a product yet. The product part of it is the most important part. That's why the NFL and NCAA football are the best. It is the most digestible sport of all time. So you got to figure out how to broadcast it and TV crews and all that crap. So nobody wants to go to this. It's at Trump National Golf Course in Bedminster, and The reports from Business Insider, and I don't know, I think that some people just found this on StubHub, so I don't know that it's exactly like factual, but according to the Wall Street Journal, tickets for Saturday over the weekend sold for $1. $1. When I was in college, the University of Mississippi just beat Alabama, and people were so hungover that they were giving away tickets to the game the next weekend against like Idaho or something. Giving them away. $1. And the LIV has all the stars, like Phil Mickelson and like Cam Smith. We talked about that. He won the Open Championship. He's in LIV Golf. $1. No one gives a fuck about this. I think that they will eventually. Maybe they won't. I don't know. Either way, it's $1. It's $1. That literally is not going to cover the cost of the transaction on StubHub. $1 is worse than giving them away, because I genuinely think that the pain in the ass of paying $1 for a ticket, I bet if you just showed up, they'd let you in. Because then it wouldn't look that bad. That's reporting from the Wall Street Journal, of course. So who the hell knows? But it is funny. This is Business Insider, just a bunch of internet gossipers. They're not exactly journalism, I'd say, but the Wall Street Journal is, and they reported it. Okay, we're going to end with Deshaun Watson. Let's go to the MLB Trade Deadline tracker. Had this cool moment yesterday. Reporters in a reporter scrum before the Astros game, and I have no idea who Christian Vasquez played for before, maybe Miami. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But he found out from reporters in pregame warmups that he had been traded. That's where he found out he had been traded. He's like, what the fuck?
I think so, yeah.
How do you feel about being traded to the Astros, Christian?
It's a business. It's a business.
He's like, what the hell is happening,
What do you
man?
think about going to that team, considering where they're at in first place?
Oh, he's from the Red Sox. Okay, and so they grab him. They're like, yeah, buddy, you gotta go. Like, you can't be talking to these people. That's so funny. I remember very distinctly when one of my favorite baseball players, Austin Jackson, from my favorite team, got traded by the Tigers, and the manager like came out and told the umpire in the middle of the game, like, hey, that guy just got traded. We got to pull him off the field. And he got a standing ovation. The crowd like knew what was going on. That was as smartphones were becoming dominant, but they weren't quite this like ever-present thing. Anyway, MLB Trade Deadline tracker. So let's start with the rumors. Shohei Ohtani is on the trading block according to the Angels. It should cost essentially half of your city's population to trade for him. Which is good. Ohtani and Trout are wasting away in Los Angeles, which blows my mind. They have two of the best players in baseball, and one of them is a pitcher, and they can't win any games, man. It is fucking weird. And they play in a division with the A's. I don't understand how they suck so bad. And those guys are build statues out front, Hall of Famers. So anyway, Ohtani's on the trade block. Other interesting names on the trade block. Everybody wants to talk about Juan Soto. He was offered $500 million from the Nats. He does not want to play for them. Not quite $500 million, but very close. He doesn't want to play for them, and so whatever. He's like, someone trade me, and they're like, yeah, we're going to try to trade you, but the price is so high, so people are banking on the price perhaps coming down. The trade deadline is today at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the year of our Lord. So this is what's happened so far. Filthy. I'm not going to do all of these because I don't think all of them are important. But filthy closer from the Brewers, Josh Hader has been traded. Josh Hader is traded to the Brewers from the Texans. Got that right after all of that. Tommy Pham, this one is super important. The Reds have traded Tommy Pham to the Boston Red Sox. Tommy Pham is the guy that got slapped in the face for fantasy football. Which is epic. Of course, Trey Mancini heads from Baltimore to Houston. Trey Mancini is maybe the top 5 player on the Orioles, but he's definitely the most expensive, so they get him out of there. The Yankees make some moves. Any other big names that matter? Not really. But Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani are the names to watch in today's trade deadline. All right, let's go to Deshaun Watson, what everyone has been waiting for, of course. So this is what happened yesterday. The judge, I forget her name, Judge Robinson, she came up with her ruling. The ruling that she decided on was exactly like I said, between 4 and 8 games. It was a 6-game suspension for Deshaun Watson. So the way this worked is they hired her. She's a former federally appointed judge, and she heard the case like a judge, and she is to judge Deshaun Watson's case based on what's in the collective bargaining agreement and the personal conduct policy. So she's like, essentially, like, she's basically like, I was a judge in the real world forever, and they're like, well, will you be a judge in our little micro world? And she said, sure, and this is what she came up with. Now, she completely rejected all of Deshaun Watson's claims that he should be absolved of any wrongdoing. So basically, she was like, you clearly did this. Secondly, she ruled that, and this is where this kind of gets weird. I'm going to talk to legal experts about this, I guess, but she said none of the interactions were violent. And so that kind of impacted her decision about punishment. So like in the real world, violence and intent, and I know this from TikTok and also watching a ton of YouTube because legal YouTube is great. For real, that's a fun rabbit hole if you're into it. Violence and intent in the real world matter a lot, especially when it comes to sentencing. And for her, the intent was clearly there, 6 games. That's egregious. By the way, 6-game suspension is enormous, but we'll talk about the context of that in a second. But he wasn't like forcing himself on them, kind of like with his body, I guess, is what she was saying. This is what she's saying. So she's like, okay, 6 games. Now, this is where this gets really important. This is why everyone should follow Mike Florio, and he is a former litigator. I think he practiced law for like almost 20 years or something. He's really helpful in these kind of things because he dives into the contracts, he dives into the CPA and help you understand. This is what's important about the new CBA. It used to be that Roger Goodell was the judge, jury, executioner, and the Court of Appeals. Now he is just the Court of Appeals. So what they did was they hired an independent judge to see the case per the new collective bargaining agreement. But if the NFL wants to appeal, they can appeal. They appeal to Goodell. Goodell decides. So this is irrelevant. It is irrelevant. The NFL must now decide whether or not the blowback from Deshaun Watson appearing in a football game this year will be worse than the blowback of suspending him further. Does that make sense? So this ruling, this kind of arbitrary hiring a third-party judge to decide thing is meant for shit like PEDs or other personal conduct, like a DUI. She's like, they should get 4 games. The NFLPA would appeal and be like, we think it should be 2 games. Goodell's like, all right, it'll be 2 games. Fine. That's what it's meant for. It is not meant for like sexual predators, which is clearly what he is. Ugh, gross. Also, in the ruling, it said that this is so fucking crazy. In the ruling, she said he should not be allowed to get massages independently ever. He should only be able to get massages from team and league hired officials, which is bananas that is in this. Ah, what a creep. What a rotten person. Anyway, so now Goodell can just decide. If the NFL wants to appeal, they can appeal, and Goodell's like, yeah, we decide it's a year. People are losing their shit, especially in the league, for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is that he's a sexual predator. So all of the people who are like, this is ridiculous. It's like in a vacuum, people are losing their shit. But when you juxtapose this with the fact that Calvin Ridley, the star wide receiver for the Atlanta Falcons, was suspended 1 year for gambling on football while he was away from the sport, which I don't know if that matters. Well, that kind of does. He was not part of the team. He was taking time away for his mental health, and he put $1,500 in a game. He's a multi-millionaire. He was suspended for a year, but the sexual predator was suspended for 6 games. It's not apples to apples comparison, but people are super mad about that. They're like, hey, how can this be? How can it be that this guy gets an entire year and Deshaun Watson, who is a sexual predator, according to the judge, he only gets 6 games. So people are going to be mad. And I don't know, let's see we'll Google it real quick. Let's see what their 6th game is. Cleveland Browns schedule. Okay, let's see. When does the season start? The 11th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 7th game will be on the road at Baltimore. Yikes. Is that right? That's right. Holy shit. That would be a very hostile place to start. And it's fortunate for the league that it wouldn't be. I mean, I don't know who else they have on their schedule. Houston, Pittsburgh. It's better than a New York or LA media team being involved. The Patriots, if they did against the Patriots a week earlier, that'd be bad. But they start their schedule with the Panthers, Baker Mayfield, blah blah blah. But the 7th game of the season would be the Ravens. That's when he would come back, and that's all anyone would talk about. So the league's got to figure that out. So now this has become not a morality thing, but a PR thing. So let's read the statement from the Cleveland Browns. Throughout this process, Deshaun and his representatives have abided by the newly created, agreed-upon process for the NFLPA and the NFL to defer to the objective judge Sue L. Robinson to comprehensively review all information and make a decision. We respect Judge Robinson's decision and at the same time empathize and understand that there have been many individuals triggered throughout this process. We know Deshaun is remorseful that this situation has caused much heartache for many, and he will continue the work needed to show he is on and off the field, and we will continue to support him. He has shown absolutely no remorse at any point in time. He thinks he shouldn't be suspended. He thinks this is all complete bullshit. He has shown 0% remorse. None. He has never, ever said, I maybe blah, 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 blah. He's not going to admit defeat. 0 remorse. None. Ever. None publicly ever. 0. You know, I'm not going to give you the Pro Football Talk Twitter thread. It's just like legalese. The NFL submitted an investigation, blah, blah, blah. It is kind of interesting to me to see like this kind of like pseudo court that's happening right in front of our faces. But alas, Deshaun Watson is quote unquote suspended for 6 games. Think of it more like an opening bid. The judge was like, he should be suspended about 6 games. But she was apparently making it very clear behind closed doors, this is bullshit. You guys figure out she wanted them to make a plea agreement, essentially. And the NFL was like a year. And I think Deshaun Watson is serious. He's such a ruthless, heartless person. I think he was just like, no. Like 2 games, no games. And so she was like, oh, no, 6 games, fine. It's a huge suspension. Multi-time PED violators get 6 games. Multi-time personal conduct policy violators get 6 games. 6 games is a lot. And by the way, all of this matters because Alvin Kamara almost beat a man to death in Las Vegas. People totally forget about that. So that decision is still upcoming as well. All right, that should do it. That's the Deshaun Watson thing. Of course, in the second day back, it's going to drop. That makes total sense for how things work on this particular program. And, yeah, ugh. Trade deadlines today in the major leagues. We will be covering that. If Australia is at Civil War or a soccer game, we'll be covering that. Like, rate, review, subscribe. Make all your friends and family like me. We'll get you out of here on this. Jerry Jones was asked why Jimmy Johnson, the Super Bowl winning head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, isn't in the Ring of Honor. And he said, I get to make the decision on whether Jimmy Johnson goes into the Ring of Honor. They famously love each other but hate each other. Yeah, we know, Jerry. It's your team. Jesus. All right. Back and better than ever tomorrow.